Water brings wealth. The river flows, the rain falls, the ocean tides move, and in their rhythm lies the secret of prosperity. Water is the universal carrier of abundance, the invisible hand that nourishes fields, fills granaries, and quickens the life of nations. When water flows freely, there is fruitfulness, there is growth, there is wealth. When it is blocked, stagnation appears, and life becomes parched. The same law applies to the spirit, for man's life is also a stream, meant to circulate, to give, to receive, to flow without fear or resistance. Water teaches us that supply is endless. A drop may appear small, yet it is connected to the vastness of oceans. So too is every coin, every opportunity, every blessing. It is a drop connected to the infinite sea of abundance. The mistake of man is to see the drop and forget the ocean. He clutches the small and fears loss, yet the law of water declares as it flows out, more flows in. The spring that gives never runs dry, for its source is eternal. Wealth does not come by hoarding, but by circulation, just as rivers keep their purity by movement, not by standing still. Observe the farmer who trusts the rain. He scatters his seed in the dark earth, knowing water will awaken it. He does not dig it up in doubt, nor cry out in fear of drought, but lives in faith that the law of growth cannot fail. So it is with wealth. One must give with confidence, sell with certainty, and know that life returns multiplied. To withhold is to dry the ground of one's own harvest. To release is to invite the river of increase. Water also teaches the lesson of adaptability. It takes the form of the vessel it enters, whether a cup, a jar, or a mighty lake, yet it loses none of its essence. Wealth, too, is not limited to coins or notes. It may appear as ideas, opportunities, health, friendships, or doors opening at the right hour. When one insists it must come in only one form, one limits the stream. But when one allows it to take its own way, wealth appears in unexpected channels, as sure as rain finds its path to the sea. There is also cleansing in water. A rushing stream washes away the old leaves, the broken branches, the dust of yesterday. Prosperity comes when the channels of thought are cleared of fear, resentment, and doubt. Just as muddy water settles when undisturbed, so a mind at peace reflects the clear truth of supply. When the mind flows with gratitude, forgiveness, and expectancy, wealth rushes in as naturally as rivers to the ocean. Thus, water is the emblem of wealth itself, flowing, abundant, adaptable, purifying, and unending. To align with it is to step into the law of circulation, where giving and receiving are one, and the tide of prosperity never fails. Water symbolizes endless circulation of abundance. To understand this truth, one must look at the way water moves through the world, never ceasing, never clinging, always flowing from one form into another, and yet never diminished. It evaporates from the sea, rises into the clouds, falls as rain, seeps into the soil, springs up as fountains, gathers in rivers, returns to the ocean, and begins again. This cycle is unbroken, eternal, and generous, offering life to every living thing. The lesson is clear: abundance is not a possession to be grasped, but a flow to be entered. The moment one sees water as a mirror of wealth, the mind awakens to a higher law, the law that says supply cannot end. For it circulates in perfect rhythm, carrying prosperity wherever it moves. When one watches a river, one sees that it never worries whether there will be more water tomorrow. It simply flows, confident that the source is unceasing. In this same way, life asks us to trust that there is always more wealth, more opportunity, more good, ready to flow into our lives if we do not obstruct the channel. The human error is in believing that abundance is limited, that once spent it may not return. This belief dries the river of prosperity, for thought is the channel through which abundance flows. To think shortage is to dam the stream, but to think circulation is to invite the endless current of increase. Water teaches the fearless truth that there is no end to supply, for the source is infinite and eternal. Consider the ocean, vast, immeasurable, teeming with life. Every river gives itself to the ocean, and yet the ocean is never full. Every wave that crashes on the shore is instantly replaced by another, and another, and another. So it is with wealth. Each gift, each act of generosity, each expenditure, when aligned with trust, returns multiplied. Because the source is not the coin or the hand that gives it, but the infinite reservoir behind it all. Just as the tide rises without effort, so abundance rises when one aligns with the truth of circulation. The wealth of the ocean is not hoarded but expressed, for it sends forth clouds to bring rain, which fills rivers, which return again. Thus, wealth moves in a circle, not a straight line. A stagnant pond, cut off from flow, becomes murky and lifeless, breeding decay. Yet a stream that flows freely sparkles with clarity and sustains multitudes. This too is the law of prosperity. When one clutches tightly, fearing to lose, wealth grows stale, opportunities dry up, and joy is replaced with burden. But when one allows giving and receiving to move in balance, life stays fresh, creative, and fruitful. Water never asks, "What if I give too much of myself?" It pours down from the clouds, it rushes across valleys, it seeps into roots, and still it is renewed. So also must man trust that in giving, he does not empty himself, but connects more deeply to the unending flow of abundance. Every culture has known the sacredness of water. Ancient temples placed fountains at their gates to symbolize cleansing and renewal. For they knew water carried more than refreshment. It carried the symbol of eternal supply. Farmers prayed for rain not only for their crops, but as a sign of divine favor, a reminder that the heavens were still open, that abundance was still flowing. Traders and merchants built their cities on rivers, knowing that flowing water meant flowing wealth. The pattern repeats across all ages and lands. Where water flows, prosperity blooms. This is not coincidence but law. For water is the visible expression of circulation, and circulation is the heartbeat of abundance. One may look also at the smallest drop, and still find the lesson. A single raindrop falls into a puddle, and creates ripples that expand outward without end. So it is with wealth. One act of generosity, however small, expands far beyond what the eye can see. It touches lives, creates opportunities, awakens gratitude, and returns multiplied. The one who sees this truth does not measure their giving by its size but by its flow. For a drop is not less significant than a river when connected to the source. The drop is proof that the ocean is near, just as the coin in one's hand is proof of infinite supply waiting to be released. The endless circulation of water also shows that abundance does not belong to one alone but to all. Rain falls on fields without choosing one over another. Rivers pass through nations without concern for boundaries drawn by men. The tide belongs not to one shore but to the entire earth. Likewise, wealth is not the possession of a few but the inheritance of all. For it flows through channels seen and unseen, touching each life in its own way. To claim monopoly over it is to resist its nature, but to recognize its universality is to align oneself with its true movement. In sharing, one enters the flow; in hoarding, one steps out of it. There is also the truth that water follows the path of least resistance. It does not argue with stone or mountain, but finds the way around, under, or through. In the same manner, wealth seeks the open channel. When the mind is filled with fear, doubt, and resistance, wealth cannot enter, for the channel is blocked. But when the mind is clear, trusting, and expectant, wealth flows as naturally as water down a slope. The law is effortless. Open the way, and the stream will find you. No forcing is needed, no struggle required. Abundance is not made but allowed, for it is already flowing, already moving, already seeking its outlet. To meditate on water is to meditate on wealth. Its endless circulation whispers the secret that life is not about accumulation but flow, not about holding but releasing, not about scarcity but endless supply. The rain that falls today has fallen for centuries past and will fall for centuries to come, nourishing countless generations. So it is with abundance. What sustains one will sustain another, for the source never runs dry. The one who understands this truth does not fear loss, for he knows there is always more, just as the river knows it will always be fed by the rain, and the rain knows it will always return from the sea. Wealth flows through giving, not hoarding. The very nature of abundance is movement, and when that movement is embraced, prosperity multiplies. When wealth is clutched tightly, when the hand is closed in fear of loss, circulation halts, and what was once living becomes stagnant. To give is to keep the channel open, to let the current of supply flow freely, knowing that in releasing one is not emptying but making space for greater increase. The one who understands this principle no longer fears generosity, for he knows that wealth, like water, must be poured out in order to return. A tree gives fruit without hesitation. It does not question whether the branches will again be heavy with harvest. It yields freely, season after season, because the law of growth is certain. So too must one give of wealth, talent, kindness, and service, knowing that every act returns in multiplied form. The soil does not resent the seed planted within it. It receives, nourishes, and returns a harvest far greater than what was sown. When one gives with trust, the same law is fulfilled, for giving is not loss but multiplication. Hoarding, on the other hand, is born of fear. It whispers that there may not be enough tomorrow, so one must grasp tightly today. Yet this very act of holding interrupts the flow, just as damming a stream can dry the fields downstream. A hoarded coin grows cold, locked away from circulation, unable to do its work. But a coin released into the world becomes bread on a table, clothing on a child, wages for a worker, profit for a merchant, and eventually, it circles back, carrying with it unseen blessings. The wealth that is given expands, but the wealth that is hoarded diminishes. One can observe this in nature. The clouds give rain to the earth, and the earth returns vapor to the skies. This eternal exchange sustains all life. If the clouds withheld their rain, the earth would wither, crops would fail, and even the clouds themselves would eventually disperse into nothingness. Giving keeps the cycle alive. In the same way, when wealth is circulated through generosity, investment, and trust, the cycle of abundance is maintained. When it is withheld, both giver and receiver suffer, for the chain of prosperity is broken. A farmer does not keep every seed in his storehouse, fearing famine. He knows that by planting he is not losing, but ensuring future harvests. Each seed released becomes many. Likewise, the wealth that is shared, whether in material form or in acts of service, multiplies in return. The one who gives from a heart of trust stands in harmony with the law of circulation. The one who withholds out of fear isolates himself from the very source of increase. True wealth is never about possession alone, but about movement. A river that flows enriches everything along its banks: trees, animals, villages, cities. A river that is blocked creates floods in one place and drought in another. The movement of wealth is meant to bring balance, nourishing lives, creating opportunities, building communities. The giver becomes a channel through which the abundance of life expresses itself. To refuse to give is to step outside of alignment with this universal principle. Even in the smallest act of giving, the law is present. A kind word given in sincerity may open doors of friendship that lead to unexpected blessings. A meal shared with another may ripple into gratitude that returns in ways unseen. A gift of money, when given without fear, may return in the form of a new opportunity, a profitable idea, or support at the moment it is most needed. Giving sets forces in motion that extend beyond the act itself. Hoarding stops those forces and isolates one from the living flow of prosperity. The heart knows this truth instinctively. There is a natural joy in giving, a sense of expansion, a feeling that life has grown richer in the very act of release. That joy is the soul recognizing alignment with universal law. Fear resists it, whispering that giving diminishes, but truth declares the opposite: giving multiplies. The open hand is never empty for long, for it invites the flow of new supply. The closed fist may seem secure, but it holds only what it already has, and no more can enter. History itself shows that societies that embraced circulation flourished, while those that hoarded crumbled. Cities that traded, shared, and invested in their people grew into centers of prosperity. Those that feared loss, withholding resources and clinging to wealth, became brittle and fell. The law of giving is not limited to individuals, but applies to nations, communities, and generations. Prosperity grows where circulation thrives. To give is also an act of trust. It acknowledges that wealth does not come from the coin in hand, but from the source behind it. The farmer trusts the earth. The sailor trusts the wind. The giver trusts the law of abundance. In that trust, doors open that would otherwise remain shut. Opportunities appear, assistance arrives, and wealth takes forms beyond expectation. Hoarding, by contrast, is an act of distrust, a denial of the infinite nature of supply. It limits vision, closes doors, and creates the very scarcity it fears. There is also an unseen dimension to giving. The energy of generosity multiplies in ways the mind cannot track. A gift given in love carries with it a vibration that attracts further love. An offering made in faith carries a magnetic quality that draws opportunities into the giver's life. Circulation is not merely physical but spiritual, touching realms beyond what the eye can measure. Wealth flows not just through currency, but through ideas, connections, inspiration, and timing. Giving activates this unseen network of return. Water does not ask where it flows, nor demand assurance that it will return. It pours itself out, knowing the cycle is eternal. In this, it teaches the law of giving. Wealth must move. It must be shared, invested, released into circulation. To do so is to honor the truth that abundance was never meant to stagnate. Every act of giving is like casting bread upon the waters, certain that it will return in multiplied form, carried by currents unseen. The more freely one gives, the more freely one receives, for life itself delights in circulation, and wealth is its instrument. Adaptability invites unexpected prosperity. Life, like water, does not demand rigid conformity but rewards flexibility and openness. Water flows effortlessly around obstacles, finding its path even when rocks block the way, cliffs rise before it, or valleys twist its course. It does not resist, it adjusts. It does not fret over how the journey will unfold, it simply moves, and in doing so sustains life wherever it travels. Wealth, like water, comes most easily to those who can adapt to circumstances, who are willing to flow with change, and who trust that the channels of opportunity can take forms beyond expectation. Resistance limits movement, but adaptability opens doors, creates pathways, and allows blessings to appear in forms that the rigid mind could never anticipate. When one clings too tightly to a single idea of what wealth should look like, one closes off the avenues through which prosperity might flow. The coin in hand, the job title, the fixed plan, the rigid schedule, these may all serve as obstacles if held with attachment. Life, in its infinite intelligence, delivers abundance in ways that the narrow mind might initially overlook. A change in career, a new friendship, an unexpected investment, a sudden move. All can bring wealth in ways that obey the universal law of supply, yet bypass the rigid expectations of the ego. Flexibility allows one to recognize these channels and step into them, whereas rigidity blocks the flow. Consider the river once again. It does not collapse when a boulder falls in its path. Instead, it curves, bends, and flows around, under, or even over the obstruction. It adjusts without hesitation, without complaint, without doubt. The river's flexibility is what allows it to reach the sea. In the same manner, prosperity flows to those who can adapt their plans, shift their perspectives, and embrace change without fear. Wealth often arrives in forms that are not immediately recognizable. Only a mind trained in adaptability can perceive the hidden gifts, opportunities, and unexpected avenues that life presents. Adaptability also requires courage. To release a fixed idea of what is necessary or acceptable is to step into uncertainty. Many fear the unknown, preferring the comfort of routine or the illusion of control. Yet the law of abundance requires movement, not stagnation. And life rewards the bold who can bend without breaking. The person who clings to outdated strategies, insists on one way of achieving success, or resists innovation may find wealth elusive, for prosperity is dynamic, ever-changing, and often appears in forms that challenge preconceived notions. Flexibility is not compromise, it is alignment with the flow of life. In practical terms, adaptability can take many forms. It may mean learning new skills to meet changing demands, shifting investments in response to economic currents, or approaching problems with creative solutions rather than fixed routines. It may involve changing one's mindset about what constitutes success, recognizing that wealth is not confined to material possessions, but may appear as knowledge, health, influence, or relationships. Each time one adjusts to circumstances rather than resisting them, one opens the door for unexpected prosperity to enter. Resistance, by contrast, creates friction that slows or halts the flow. The principle extends beyond personal action into relationships and communities. Businesses that thrive are those that respond to market shifts, consumer preferences, and technological innovation. Communities that prosper adapt to changing environmental, social, and economic conditions. Inflexibility leads to decline, whereas responsiveness and adaptability bring opportunity and growth. The same law applies individually. Those who embrace change, who adjust their attitudes, behaviors, and strategies, attract resources, ideas, and partnerships that they could not have anticipated. Adaptability also fosters creativity, which is a hidden form of wealth. When one is open to change, new ideas arise naturally. One sees solutions that were previously invisible, discovers opportunities in challenges, and turns obstacles into stepping stones. Wealth is not only a function of what is already known or possessed, but also of the ability to perceive and act upon possibilities. The adaptive mind is like a fertile field ready to receive seeds from unexpected sources. Rigidity is like barren soil, closed off to the flow of inspiration. Even in financial matters, the principle is clear. Investments that are diversified, plans that include contingencies, and approaches that allow for adjustment are more likely to yield returns than rigid, single-minded strategies. Opportunities often appear when least expected. A sudden offer, a chance meeting, a pivot in the market, and only those prepared to adapt can take full advantage. To insist that wealth must come through one narrow channel is to block other avenues and limit the potential for abundance. Flexibility creates room for surprise, serendipity, and expansion. The spiritual dimension of adaptability is equally powerful. Life rewards the flexible heart that can let go of attachment, release judgment, and accept the unknown. Wealth is not always in the form of material gain. It can appear as peace, joy, insight, or relationships. By being adaptable in expectation and open to life's unfolding, one allows these non-material forms of abundance to flow as freely as money or possessions. Resistance, worry, or insistence on a fixed form limits the richness of experience, while adaptability allows all forms of wealth to manifest. Even adversity contains the seed of prosperity when met with flexibility. A sudden loss, a change in circumstances, or a challenge that seems insurmountable can redirect the flow of life toward new avenues. Like water navigating a rocky gorge, those who bend with circumstances discover hidden streams, fertile valleys, and new routes to abundance. Those who resist become trapped, their energy dissipated in fruitless struggle, while those who adapt harness the same situation to create opportunity, growth, and reward. The law of adaptability emphasizes that prosperity is not a fixed destination but a dynamic flow. The mind that is willing to pivot, the heart that can release rigid expectations, and the hand that can take new forms of action align with life's current. Just as water nourishes every valley, it touches without demanding the landscape change to suit it. Wealth flows to those who can adjust without losing essence. Flexibility is not submission, it is mastery of circumstance. A conscious choice to work with life rather than against it, and the secret pathway through which unexpected prosperity travels. Through adaptability, the mind learns to see beyond limitation, the heart learns to embrace uncertainty, and the spirit discovers the endless avenues through which life expresses abundance. The one who can flow, bend, and adjust in alignment with opportunity does not merely survive. They thrive in ways that the rigid, the fearful, and the resistant cannot imagine. Each obstacle becomes a lesson, each challenge a guide, and each change a portal to wealth in forms that defy expectation. Clearing thoughts creates channels for supply. The mind, like a riverbed, must be free from obstruction for abundance to flow. When fear, doubt, resentment, or anger fill the mental landscape, wealth encounters resistance, and the current of prosperity slows or diverts entirely. just as water cannot pass through a clogged channel. Opportunities and blessings cannot reach the one whose mind is congested with negative thought patterns. The first step toward wealth is therefore not external effort alone, but internal clearing. A mind uncluttered, calm, and expectant becomes a natural conduit for abundance, drawing resources, ideas, and circumstances with ease and clarity. Thoughts are the invisible architecture through which the flow of supply travels. Every limiting belief acts as a dam, stopping the circulation of wealth. I am not enough. There is never enough. I do not deserve this. These statements form mental blockages that prevent resources from arriving. Each thought carries energy, and the repeated reinforcement of limitation shapes the environment to reflect those beliefs. Clearing the mind does not mean ignoring reality. It means aligning with the principle that the universe is abundant, and that supply is always available for those whose minds are open and receptive. Gratitude is one of the most effective tools for clearing the mental channels. When one focuses on what is already present and expresses appreciation, the mind shifts from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude acts like a gentle current, washing away the debris of negative thinking and opening space for new wealth to flow. The person who maintains a mental practice of acknowledgement and thanks finds that opportunities present themselves naturally, ideas appear, and help arrives in ways previously unseen. Without gratitude, even favorable circumstances may go unnoticed, and the channels remain partially blocked by the murk of discontent and complaint. Forgiveness is another essential aspect of clearing thoughts. Harboring resentment, anger, or judgment creates internal turbulence that blocks the smooth flow of prosperity. Just as a river slowed by fallen branches loses momentum and energy, the mind burdened with grudges resists the natural movement of supply. To forgive is to remove these obstructions, to allow energy to circulate freely, and to make room for blessings to enter. Forgiveness does not condone harm, it simply releases the mind from holding on to what no longer serves, creating space for new abundance to manifest. Visualization and focused intention also serve as tools for clearing the channels of thought. By picturing the desired outcome clearly and consistently, one aligns mental energy with the reality they wish to create. A clear image of wealth, success, or opportunity acts like a straight, open channel, allowing the currents of supply to move unhindered. Confusion, uncertainty, or vague intentions act as twists and turns in the channel, dissipating energy and slowing the flow. The power of focused thought lies in its ability to carve a path through the subconscious mind, removing obstacles and directing the current of abundance where it is most effective. Self-talk shapes the flow as well. The language one uses internally sets the tone for external manifestation. Words of limitation or fear constrict the mind's openness to supply. Positive, affirming language opens the mental space, much like clearing debris from a river but allows water to move freely. Statements such as, "I am capable of abundance," "Opportunities flow to me easily," and "I am worthy of prosperity," are not merely motivational. They are practical instruments for maintaining clear channels through which wealth can pass. The repetition of such affirmations strengthens the mental pathways, ensuring that supply meets no resistance. Mental clutter, doubt, and indecision act as sediments in the river of thought, slowing the current and creating turbulence. To clear these sediments, one must practice discernment, choosing which ideas, influences, and priorities to allow in the mind. Not every worry, not every opinion, not every fear requires attention. By letting go of unnecessary mental weight, the flow of wealth becomes stronger and more direct. This discipline of mental selection and focus ensures that resources are drawn efficiently and effectively, without wasted effort or misdirection. Meditation and reflection serve to clear and deepen the channels of thought. When the mind is quieted, free from constant chatter and distraction, one becomes aware of hidden blockages and can release them consciously. Meditation allows insight into the ways limiting beliefs shape behavior and perception, enabling corrective action. As the mind gains clarity, intuition becomes stronger and opportunities for wealth become more apparent. The stillness of a clear mind mirrors the smooth surface of a pond, reflecting abundance without distortion and attracting circumstances that align with that clarity. The principle extends to habits and routines as well. Mental and emotional clutter often stems from chaotic lifestyles, poor organization, or scattered attention. By cultivating habits that promote clarity, regular planning, reflection, prioritization, and rest, the mind remains open to the flow of supply. A structured and harmonious inner life translates into an external reality in which wealth is more easily recognized and captured. Just as a well-maintained channel allows water to move without obstruction, disciplined routines enable the natural circulation of abundance to continue uninterrupted. Surroundings influence mental clarity too. The environment, physical, social, and informational, contributes to the mental currents that either block or facilitate wealth. Surrounding oneself with negativity, conflict, or excessive noise clogs the channels, while environments that inspire, uplift, and support clarity enhance them. Careful attention to the quality of inputs, books, media, relationships, and experiences ensures that the mind remains receptive. Clearing thought involves both internal work and external awareness, creating a holistic space in which supply can flow freely. Faith and expectancy are powerful allies in this process. Belief in the availability of abundance, trust in the mechanisms of supply, and confidence in one's own worth remove unseen barriers. The mind cannot receive fully if it doubts the legitimacy of wealth or fears inadequacy. Faith acts like a cleansing current, sweeping away fear and reinforcing the openness required for prosperity. Expectancy keeps the channels alert, sensitive, and ready to receive, turning potential opportunities into realized blessings. Every act of generosity, kindness, and constructive contribution further clears mental channels. When one gives without fear, the energy of supply is reinforced. The mind, knowing that circulation brings return, releases tension and opens space for new ideas, resources, and opportunities. The more one aligns thought with the principles of flow and clarity, the more seamless the movement of wealth becomes. Each thought, word, and action either contributes to clarity or adds sediment to the channels, and conscious attention to this process ensures the unrestricted flow of supply. To clear thought is to harmonize with the natural law of abundance. The universe flows through mental channels, responding to openness, gratitude, forgiveness, focus, and trust. When these channels are clear, wealth moves as easily as water through an unobstructed river. Blocked thought creates scarcity, resistance, and frustration. Cleared thought creates opportunity, energy, and the effortless arrival of prosperity. A mind uncluttered is like a spring flowing freely, drawing from the infinite reservoir and nourishing life wherever it reaches. Gratitude aligns with the tide of increase. The simple act of recognizing and appreciating what is already present in life opens the mind and heart to receive far more than the eye can see. Gratitude is a powerful magnet for abundance because it shifts focus from scarcity to sufficiency, from lack to plenty. When the mind dwells on what it already possesses, it acknowledges the fullness of life, and in doing so, it signals the universe that it is ready to receive more. The energy of thankfulness is not passive. It is a dynamic force that attracts opportunities, wealth, and blessings in ways that logical planning or effort alone cannot achieve. The principle of gratitude is evident in nature. Trees, animals, and the seasons perform their work in harmony, responding to the cycles of life without complaint, without resistance. The soil receives rainfall, the sun nourishes plants, and each element contributes its part, creating abundance naturally. Humans, too, are designed to thrive when they recognize the gifts that already exist. By focusing on what is present rather than what is missing, the mind removes resistance and opens channels through which the flow of prosperity can move unhindered. Appreciation becomes a key that unlocks doors previously unseen. Gratitude transforms perception. When one sees each circumstance, person, and possession as a gift, the mind shifts from judgment to acceptance, from limitation to possibility. A grateful mindset perceives the hidden opportunities in challenges, the lessons in setbacks, and the value in simple moments. Wealth flows more easily to those who see abundance in the present, for they are no longer creating mental blocks of resistance or fear. Each expression of gratitude strengthens the connection to the universal supply, making it easier for resources to arrive and circulate. Daily practice of gratitude amplifies its effect. Taking time to consciously acknowledge blessings, whether large or small, trains the mind to expect more good in life. A simple routine of reflection, journaling, or spoken acknowledgement creates an internal rhythm that aligns with the law of increase. The mind begins to focus on solutions, possibilities, and the richness already present, rather than on deficits or limitations. This shift in focus alone produces a remarkable change in how abundance manifests, turning potential opportunities into tangible wealth. Gratitude also cultivates faith. When one appreciates what is already available, there is trust that the source of supply is reliable and unending. This faith removes doubt, which is one of the greatest obstacles to wealth. A person who is thankful for what they have implicitly trusts that more is available and that the universe will respond to alignment with its laws. The energy of faith reinforces the power of gratitude, creating a feedback loop in which expectation and appreciation amplify one another, drawing resources, ideas, and opportunities toward the individual. Even in difficult circumstances, gratitude has transformative power. Life does not always present what is desired immediately, yet focusing on what is present allows one to see avenues of increase that would otherwise be hidden. A challenging situation, when approached with thankfulness for the lessons it brings, becomes a stepping stone rather than a barrier. This mindset releases energy trapped in frustration or fear and redirects it toward creative solutions and fruitful action. Wealth is not merely the accumulation of money. It includes insight, opportunity, relationships, and experiences, all of which are attracted more readily when gratitude governs thought. The act of giving naturally flows from gratitude. When one appreciates the abundance already present, there is an impulse to share it with others. This sharing, in turn, circulates wealth and reinforces the principle that prosperity is not finite but dynamic. The energy of giving multiplies what is received, creating a flow of abundance that continually renews itself. Gratitude fuels this process by reminding the giver of the richness that already exists, allowing generosity to come from a place of fullness rather than fear. Each act of giving based on thankfulness becomes a channel through which more wealth is drawn into life. Gratitude also aligns the mind with opportunities that might otherwise go unnoticed. When a person is focused on appreciation, they become more sensitive to possibilities, relationships, and solutions that can enhance prosperity. A grateful mind notices doors opening, ideas arriving, and people willing to assist. In contrast, a mind that dwells on lack often misses these subtle signals, trapped in a narrow perspective. Thankfulness expands perception, enabling one to recognize and seize opportunities that are aligned with their desires and the natural flow of increase. In addition, gratitude enhances resilience. Life is full of uncertainties, and the path to wealth often involves challenges. Those who maintain gratitude remain grounded and centered even in the face of setbacks. By focusing on what is working and what is already abundant, the mind avoids being overwhelmed by obstacles and instead channels energy toward constructive action. This mental state is fertile for wealth creation because it combines optimism, focus, and alignment with the laws of abundance, producing outcomes that are both unexpected and substantial. Gratitude also attracts cooperation and assistance. People naturally respond to those who express genuine appreciation. Relationships flourish when gratitude is expressed, creating networks of support and collaboration that contribute to prosperity. The energy of thankfulness communicates openness and receptivity, inviting others to participate in the flow of abundance. In both personal and professional life, gratitude strengthens bonds, builds trust, and enhances the exchange of resources, all of which are essential for the continuous increase of wealth. The spiritual dimension of gratitude cannot be overlooked. Thankfulness aligns the individual with the infinite source of abundance. By acknowledging and appreciating what already exists, The mind harmonizes with the universal law that supplies all needs. This alignment opens channels that are otherwise blocked by fear, doubt, or attachment. The act of gratitude itself carries an energetic frequency that resonates with the rhythm of increase, drawing more of the same into the individual's life. The more consistently gratitude is practiced, the more natural and effortless the flow of wealth becomes, as the mind, heart, and spirit move in harmony with the principles of universal supply. Gratitude, when cultivated as a habitual attitude, transforms life into a magnet for wealth in all forms. It is not merely a polite acknowledgement, but a powerful tool that clears mental, emotional, and spiritual channels for abundance. Each expression of thankfulness reinforces the belief in sufficiency, encourages giving, enhances perception, and strengthens resilience. It creates a fertile environment where opportunities, resources, and ideas can enter freely, multiply, and return, feeding a cycle of continual increase. The practice of gratitude is therefore both a conscious discipline and a natural state that aligns the individual with the infinite tide of supply, ensuring that wealth is recognized, welcomed, and fully received. Every moment spent in genuine appreciation strengthens the alignment with the law of increase. The mind trained to see gifts in all circumstances is naturally open to new forms of wealth. It notices opportunities where others see obstacles, perceives solutions where others see problems, and attracts the support, guidance, and resources necessary to transform potential into reality. The energy of gratitude moves through thought, action, and intention, creating a dynamic flow that continuously reinforces and expands prosperity. The ripple effect of gratitude extends far beyond the individual. Families, communities, and even broader networks benefit when people practice thankfulness, for the energy of appreciation generates cooperation, kindness, and resourcefulness. Gratitude not only attracts wealth to the individual, but enhances the environment in which abundance can multiply. The act of recognizing blessings, expressing thanks, and sharing generously aligns one with a universal rhythm of increase, making prosperity both inevitable and continuous.